Azure Data Lake Storage. First thing which we will be storing is in your Azure Data Lake Storage, and it is very important that you understand this thing, because what happens is, in general, like in your business purposes, most of the data we first store it as an ADLS2. Okay, and from there we do the read and write operations. So even if they are on premises batch files, what we do is we move these batch files as a blob, and or else mostly as an ADLS2, and from there we start writing the functions, whether we want to put it in a SQL data warehouse or we want to put it in a Cosmos DB. Okay, even if whether you use data factory or you use data bricks, both do the same thing. Okay, even you are reading a data from a Kafka stream, and even in that case, first you will write it as a delta lake, which is a data, again, a Azure Data Lake Storage. So it is important you understand this concept. So what is your Azure Data Lake Storage? So it is a highly scalable, distributed, parallel file system in the cloud, which is specially designed to work with multiple analytic framework. Okay, so ADLS is, as you see here, it can read all kinds of data, whether it is the on-premises database, that is your structured data, whether it comes from a web, or it's a video or image which is completely unstructured, or it comes from your NoSQL databases which has some structure, like it's a semi-structure, or from sensors, or without the need to bring everything to a common platform. All right, so you can store an image also as an ADLS2. You can store batch files also as an ADLS2. You can take IoT data also as an ADLS2. So you see the difference, right? It is not needed for you to convert a NoSQL data into a SQL. So it's just so that it's easy for you to query or you to load. So any kind of data can be stored in your ADLS, that is Azure Data Lake Store, without the need to do any kind of computation. Okay, we can run all these on the ADLS, that is your ADL Analytics, HD Insight, your R, Spark. We can do machine learning experiments on this. We can develop machine learning algorithms on these data. So there are two parts in your Azure Data Lake. One comes the storage, one comes the analytics. Okay, for analytics, we use the HD Insight Analytics or your Azure Data Lake in Analytics. And for your storage, the normal one, the Azure Data Lake Storage. Now, keep in mind, the Azure Data Factory and Azure Data Bricks are something which help you to read or write data into this. Okay. So, as I was saying, Azure Data Lake will take any kind of structured data, whether it is fixed, it supports everything: structured data, semi structured data, and unstructured data. All right. And the best part is you don't need to kind of bring anything on a common platform. Okay. Next thing is the size. So, there is no limit to size and no limit on an account. Even you can have multiple files of different sizes, or you can have a single very large file also. Okay. Next is how it works. So for this much fast accessibility and all, it actually uses the web HDFS interface. It's completely based on that. And then it supports your parallel reads and writes, because of which again your analytical functions are very fast. Next, what we can do is, if we can split a file, say we have some data which we can split it up. So in that case, it is divided into 2 GB chunks, which are called your extents. Okay, and these extents are again replicated. So every time a replication happens, it is for high availability and for your reliability. And vertices, this comes in picture when we will use the USQL. They are created on these extents. So I'll explain you in detail what vertices are and what extents are when we are actually creating something with the USQL. Okay, so
Sweta,
yeah.
what is Wave SDFS?
So basically, this is your web Hadoop file system. Actually, it uses HTTP REST APIs to get data or to load data. It will use those HTTPS get at HTTPS post append. So it will use those things, and then it will store the data, or it will get the data, or it will update. So if you want to understand that, it is a very huge topic. I can just create a
Okay.
small detailed one like I did today, but it'll take some, like, to just to understand it, it'll take some time. I'll make a note and I'll get the details for you people.
Okay.
Okay, because it's a completely different system. So you have your Hadoop file system, right? Hadoop distributed file system. How you do it through a web application or web interface is this. So it is very fast and very easy to do. So that's why it is based on that file system. All right. So the next thing is it's a set of capabilities which is dedicated to big data analytics built on Azure Blob Storage. So they took all the important features of your Blob Storage. They have used it on your Azure Data Lake Storage. There are differences on that, but it is similar to many extents. So results of converging the capabilities of our existing two services, that is the Azure Blob Storage and Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 1, we are getting the Gen 2. Features from storage Gen 1 are combined with low cost, tired storage, high availability, disaster recovery from Azure Blob Storage. So there are certain things like your ADLS is more optimized for your analytics, okay, and Blob is for bulk storage. Similarly, ADLS, if you do any operation on ADLS, it is expensive when compared to Blob. Then your ADLS, since it is based on web HDFS, it is completely available for your analytics or for your big data work, but Blob, it does not support HDFS. Okay, so by understanding the features itself, you will be able to understand why we need to go into data lake. All right, so the main objective of building a data lake is to offer an unified view of data to scientists. So just imagine you can analyze a picture also, and you can get the you read the pictures and get the details. At the same time, you can get details from video if they are related, and you can compare it with on-premises file system. So how easy it will be for someone who wants to access data across these environments. With the increase in data volume, data quality, and metadata, the quantity of analysis also increases. And data lake offers agility. So as we saw, it's very agile. You can update any new thing very easily when compared to other storages. So here your machine learning and artificial intelligence can be used to make profitable predictions. So Azure also gives you machine learning studio. Okay. And if you go and create, so you create experiments in your machine learning studio. So all that experiments you can easily do on your ADLS. So it also gives 360 views of your customer and makes analysis more robust. So we need to understand the data lake architecture also. So you see this picture, right? There's something called source. So here it is showing real-time ingestion, micro batch ingestion, or batch ingestion. Then we have something as an ingestion tier. We have the HDFS storage. We have the insight tier, and we have the actions. Let's understand what each tier is. Okay. So the ingestion tier, that is your first tier. This one, the tier on the left side depicts the data sources. The data could be loaded into data lake in batches or in real time. So what does it mean is you can actually put a batch processing data, or real time streaming also can be done. Even that data can be stored in your ADLS. When I say ADLS, I mean ADLS 2. Alright, because now by default you will get the option of using ADLS 2 only, and most of the people will be using that. Only for already developed systems which are on ADLS 1, they are using that. So next is the insight tier. The tiers on the right represent the research wide where insights from the systems are used. SQL, NoSQL queries, or even Excel could be used for data analysis. See, so you get the data, you do all the operations, and then from here you can use any of these things. You can either query it through SQL, or you can load it in a NoSQL database, or you can do MapReduce, or you can simply use query interface. And based on what you will take this decision is completely on your business requirement. So HDFS is the cost-effective solution for both structured and unstructured data. It is the landing zone for all data that is at rest in the system. So in the HDFS storage, all your data is brought and it is stored over there. So data, there is no transactional data over there. Everything present there is at rest. And all this data will also be encrypted. Next, we see the distillation layer, which is this layer, which is the fourth layer. So what that layer does is it takes the data from the storage tier and converts it to structured data for easier analysis. So suppose your unstructured data is coming and your structured data is there. So in that case, it will convert it in such a way that it becomes structured for the work. And okay.
So all these things definitely we have to do this kind of a data harmonizations, right? I mean, so distillation tier is all about the how we are going to merge the data structured, unstructured, and get it into the right format, correct?
Yeah, you will have some control and certain things will be done inbuilt itself. Okay.
Just a last question, Shweta. So when
Hmm.
you say convert, like, and you said it would be done internally also, right? So how
Hmm, hmm,
would
hmm.
that, or on what basis it would convert?
See, this depends on what kind of data you are working on. Okay, if you're already working on a structured data, it will not convert. And by meaning to convert in a structured data, it does not means that it will convert something from a NoSQL to a completely to a SQL database. It won't do that. Instead, it will put it in a structured way. Okay, so that it is easily accessible. It won't be in a very unstructured manner, like, or no structure at all. If you're taking a picture or something, so it will fetch the necessary informations and keep it ready. You don't need everything from a picture, right? There will be certain tools to read the picture and do the analysis, or from a video. So it will at least put it in a structured way. It does not mean that it will convert it to from a NoSQL to a SQL database. That will not do it. Okay,
So
next is the
Shweta,
process. Yeah.
so basically, like blob will store the unstructured data, and this
Mm-hmm.
data like a store will get the unstructured data, but it will convert into a structured format, and using some analysis tool like
Hmm.
NoSQL, and then it will store like in the structured format,
No,
right?
it will see. No,
So
no, no.
basically, what is the
Blob.
difference between the two? If you can just
See,
explain
blob
it.
is okay. So blob is your binary one, right? So large scale binary storage, binary large objects, basically, that are your that is blob. So it is used for storing your large files. It is not based on web HDFS. It's a simple storage. Okay, it will not help you with. It does not have any features of HDFS. It's not, as I showed you in this Excel, right? It is not compatible. It's not HDFS compatible only, so you cannot do your analytics work over there. Okay, you cannot directly connect it to HD Insight. You cannot directly connect it to MapReduce. You cannot do MapReduce over here. But when your data is getting stored, even ADLS is a storage, but here it's a completely different kind of storage. It supports blob as well as it supports your other data also. And then
Okay,
uh, okay, and then the it is based on your web HDFS. It is completely compatible with your Hadoop file system. You can do all kind of analytical work on this. It is much faster when you compare to blob. So blob is basically, it will be used just to store data, and the kind of data which we will not access it that frequently. It's kind of a cold storage, but this is not that. Here you have to define whether it is a hot storage or a cold storage, and based on that you can get the data and work on it.
okay. So you're saying that ADLS storage is suitable for analytics purpose, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
But in this diagram in the architecture, you're
Mm-hmm.
saying that it is getting analyzed here itself and then getting stored.
No, this is, see, analyzed in the sense when we are storing it, right? When we like, see, when we store it, it will define certain things on it. So if you run a get operation, okay, suppose you are putting the HTTPS get to get some data, so it has to structure that data in a way that that get process operates, right? So these things will
Okay,
happen internally. Okay, and
okay,
when we create ADLS also, you'll get more details today. So this is almost done. So last is the unified operation tier. So it governs the system management and monitoring. So here you can get the monitoring details and all. Okay, so now we are very clear with ADLS 2. So let's do one of the working sessions. So there are two sessions for you all. One is to create
Okay.
the Cosmos DB account, which we did. Then in that
Yes.
we will be understanding how to change the regions. So we did it till here, we created it, and then I showed you to create a container. In a container there will be item, and these items will contain your documents. We created a Cosmos DB of SQL API. All right.
Correct.
uh, okay, so this is a simple exercise. So since all of you are very interested in doing this, we'll start creating with your ADLS itself. So let us start with ADLS. We'll create your Azure Data Factory. Okay. Okay, I'll try and show you to create a copy data where we are loading the data, say from an ADLS 2 into Cosmos DB. All
More
right.
sense. So,
Yeah, first we'll do
but
it.
first we have to do, but first we have to store the data into ADLS, right? And then from the ADLS we'll go to the Cosmos, correct?
Right. That's correct.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So, okay, this is not needed. Let us go over. You all can get log into your systems. So one thing what I have done is I have gone through your Amazon, and again you can create a. This is just to make you understand how we can get data from so many different sources. Okay, so I have gone to Amazon. I've created an S3 storage. In the S3 storage, there is something called as buckets, and in those buckets, I've just created a bucket. Bucket is like a storage account, and in that I've just uploaded this CSV. I just downloaded this file from internet, and it just takes random sales data is over there. I can
Uh,
show you the link from where I've copied
yeah,
actually.
sure.
Yeah, if you go to this site,
This is for a CSV file, right?
yeah, the CSV file which I am using. So you guys can go ahead and create a free account in AWS if you want to utilize the Azure storage, S3 storage over there. I'll wait for you. Once you just create a free account, just let me know. In the meantime, I'll go and create a data factory as well.
Instead of AWS, can we go in Microsoft Azure so that we have already practice in Azure environment?
Right.
Okay, fine. Just let me show this to you. Okay. The reason why I
Okay.
want to show this to you, I want when we are doing the Cosmos DB, right? I'll show it to you. I will do it in this session, but I want you people to get an idea what exactly it is, and there you can implement it because you all have the system there. Once
Okay.
you start understanding the ADF, you will understand why we are taking it as ADF.
So we
So
can
I'm
directly
just,
put CSV file in data lake storage, right?
yes, you
Instead
can
of
do that
going,
also.
yeah. So
Yes, you
and
can. There is an option to upload also.
yeah.
Okay.
So basically, from there we can keep it in Cosmos DB. I mean through
Yes,
data factory.
yes, you can. I'll show you now. You have a lot of capability in Data Factory. Okay, matlab a lot you can do there. This is just one small thing, one small activity called copy data. Okay, so I have only one resource group here. I am adding it. Now the location, try to choose the location as near to you, because the farther location you will choose, the more you will be charged to create a storage or to read write data in that particular premises. Okay, and one more thing, your location comes into consideration. So you will know, right, there are certain data which we do not, which some countries will not allow you to move it out of the country. You can access it only in that region. So you can keep a location there, and you can restrict data only. Say suppose you have created a resource group and you can restrict it is in East US, so your data is also not going in out of East US, it is stored in East US region, and you can restrict the people of US itself to do it. Okay, so for now I'm not enabling Git. We can do a Git enable here, or else I'll show you once we create the data factory what all options we have to get to create the Git over there. Git is your repository.
Can you
You have
please
to click
show me?
this author and monitor. So your data factory will give you us various different kind of activities. Activities are something where we do certain kind of transformation. Copy data is one such activity where you define two separate sources and you copy the data from one source to another source. Very limited transformation is allowed here in when you do a copy data. Okay, there is something called as data flow. So basically it gives you a GUI interface to do all kind of transformations, filter, create new rows, all the transformations, ETL transformations, you can do it over here. What is does it? It spins off cluster and runs the code in Spark. All right, but that is done in the backend, and the user does not need to code in Scala. He can do it through a GUI. So pipeline, when we create a pipeline, we combine these different activities in a workflow. So it's sort of a workflow. So you want one activity A to run. Once it finishes, you want activity B to run. If it fails, you want activity C to run. So these kind of workflows, when it is created, it is called as pipeline. Next, we have create pipeline from template. So what Azure has done is there are some predefined templates, like there are templates for creating CDC, there are templates for loading data from say like database A to database B. You can just download those templates, configure it according to your needs, and then you can very well go ahead and do it. All right. Next is configure SSIS integration. So we all know SSIS is a Microsoft product. So what they have done is through this you can just directly lift and shift your code, your SSIS code there. You need not do anything. You just need to build up packages, and from there you can deploy it in ADLF, and then you can run it in cloud. I asked you not to connect to GitHub, right? Because this option of setup code repository will give you that option. We have two kinds of repository that we can access. One is the GitHub, and other one is the Azure DevOps Git. So Azure DevOps Git is basically the repository provided by Azure. You can put it in either of the two. The preferable one is GitHub. Okay, so this is the starting page. If you want to directly go to an activity, you can just create over here. So if I go and create here as a copy data activity, it will work. All right. If I go and create over here, create a data flow, directly it will take me to a page where I can create a data flow. Suppose I don't want to go via this page. Okay. So just discard everything, discard changes. So the next thing is your editor. So I was telling you about pipelines. Let's do one thing. Let's create a pipeline. Whenever we try to create a pipeline, see all these different features you can, these are all the activities which you can do in Azure. It's not only just a ETL transformation. Okay, you can do all of these things, and you can do multiple things together also. Say you want to create a copy data, then you want to create a data flow activity. You can even call notebooks which are written in Databricks and run it in your data factory. Okay, so all this can be done. Now we'll learn the thing of creating a copy data. Let me go here and discard. Okay, so we'll click copy data. Now we have to give a name to this copy data pipeline. So let's give it as copy data training. All right. If you want, you can give the task description. We can also schedule the task. Okay, I'm just
To
showing you
move
now.
this, no, no, no. What I'm saying that inside the move and transform, we have the copy data option. Correct?
Right. The same thing will open here.
So we have to drag it and we can drop it on the right hand side, right?
Right. Whatever you want to do it, you just have to do
Okay.
this way.
Oh,
So the same thing will open over here
yeah,
also.
yeah, that's what. Yeah,
All
yeah.
right. You just close these things. Okay, and let me show you something. So you see everything is written in a JSON code. As we will add the different details, these codes will be written. So when you open the GitHub, you will see the code in this level. So when we were saying it is JSON compatible, all the data codes will be written in this way. So for now, we'll create it from there itself. Copy data, copy data underscore tree. All right. So yeah, as I was saying, a schedule. So it provides us two kind of schedules. So for creating a schedule, we need to create a trigger, and that can be scheduled or tumbling window. We'll go in details over this later. For now, we'll just create it for once. Okay, that means this pipeline will trigger only once. Okay, then you go to next. Now here we set up the connection. So you want to see from how many different sources we can actually get data for your Azure Data Factory. So they are these many. So you can connect to any of these sources. All right. So you have your Azure connectivity where you can connect to a blob storage. You can connect to a Cosmos DB, which has a MongoDB API, that is the document DB, or it can have SQL API, or you can connect to Azure Data Explorer, or the Gen 1 or Gen 2, or your MariaDB, MySQL, Postgre. So any of these things, okay, you can connect. So we just have to give certain parameters, your link service will be created. So these many connectivities are set up. With respect to your databases, you have all these databases. I'll create a ADLS. Alright, and there I will Azure Data Lake Gen 2. Okay, continue. So if you see, I have actually not created an ADLS account is already not there, right? So if you see here, so it's showing my subscription, but there are no accounts. So first thing what I have to do is I have to go over here and create a storage account. Okay, let us create a one with a hierarchical one. Let's see if we do that. IP training. I'm just giving any name. So let me keep it this way. I'll just change this. Next, advanced, and here you are asking me to keep it as enable. You go to advanced, enabled, next tags, review and create, validation passed, and let us create it.
Yeah.
Do changes in the storage account, right?
I created a new storage account just to
New
make
storage
sure
account.
that,
Yeah.
yeah, I created a new storage account where I have clicked that option of hierarchical access.
Generation 2.
Yes.
Yes, for the Gen 2, correct.
Right. Yeah.
Once it is created, can you see whether in the configuration we can change the type and everything properties?
No,
Because
that
we are
you
not
Okay.
can't.
able to change it.
Uh, okay, let me check. As far as I know, we can't. Okay, this is
So
done.
this is the
Give me
account,
again
right?
the same. Yeah, this is the account.
And then like for storage, we have to go to the containers only, right?
Yeah, we have to go to the containers only. We create a
Mm.
container, we create an ad, we give a name.
So that will be Gen 2, right?
Container is just where it's like a folder. Just consider it as a
No,
folder,
no, no.
okay?
My question is when you are creating storage account with Gen 2 features enabled, and then you are going to the containers and then you are creating a storage, that will be considered as ADLS Gen 2, right?
That is, I think,
Right.
within the storage account. So it should be Gen 2, I believe, because it's getting created within the storage account, which is Gen 2.
Hmm.
So it's just like an internal folder within that.
This container is just a folder, okay? Inside the blob, a folder called container, which is named as test. It is actually a folder. You can add more folders inside this, and you just go to upload, browse it over here. It will
Oh,
show the
so
file,
that
and you
still
can
not
add it.
clear.
Mhm.
My question is like how to create Gen 2
You
ADLS.
want to see
You have
whether
all
the Gen 2 will specifically appear or not, right? What I'm saying
right.
is, okay, just give me some time. Just what I told you is there was supposed to be an update like, from which
Mhm.
by default it will take Gen 2. It will not be displaying it. Just give me 5 minutes. I'll just check on that. Meanwhile, you guys can download the file and upload the file over here.
So you are not going with Gen 2, you are going with Blob, right?
Okay, consider this as blob. I'll just confirm whether this is a blob itself or it is a Gen 2 as of now.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so here when you and I'll just show you to create the link service also, so that meanwhile I'll just search it and you can just go ahead and do it. So you go to create a new connection, you search for data lake gen 2, continue from subscription here. So you see, right, both of them are appearing in your storage account name. So I'm not sure where did I upload it. Okay, so you just create the storage account, and if you do a test connection, it should be connected. As per the latest thing, you remember we selected somewhere as storage account V2, When we select that, it is by default Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2. That is what I am
Mm-hmm.
reading it right now in the updates. But I'll again
Mm-hmm.
go and cross check, and I'll see if I can go and show you any previous version how it used to be differentiated at that point of time. But as of now,
Mm-hmm.
wherever I'm checking in the updates, it's showing that by default it will create as a Gen 2, which will have capabilities of both your blob storage and your data lake storage. See, if we were creating only a blob storage, right, you'll never get that option of access tier, because blob does not support hot access tier.
So, so after checking Gen 2, when we select create storage from containers, it will by default create Gen 2, right?
Yes, that's what I'm trying to say. Okay, this is just the name, Azure Data Lake Storage 1. If you see here, the name I did not change. It is not related to storage lake. You can give any name which you want. And this, someone was asking if you can change a configuration, right? Here you see the name is not, you cannot change it. You need to create a new connection if you wanted to do it with a new name. So what we are doing here is basically we are doing a connection setup. Like in ODBC, through ODBC drivers, you do a connection setup, right? You connect to certain servers. Similarly, your setup is done. From the data factory, you can connect to your Azure Data Lake storage. All right, and here I went ahead and I uploaded this records also. So if you go on next, you can go file or folder. Here you see the test, you create the file and you choose. Okay, now do you want to consider this as a binary copy? If it is a binary file, if you click this, it'll consider as a binary. You can directly upload compressed files which are of these configurations. So if you have a gzip file, you don't need to explicitly unzip it and do it. You can do it here. If you want to deflate or zip deflate, these kind of compression types is supported. It's not binary, so I'm not doing it. Next, if you want to do it recursively, so if in this folder you have 10 files, all right, and I want all 10 files to be copied, I can just go here and I can give this option of recursively. Currently there is a single file, so I'm not giving this option. So your concurrent sessions, how many sessions you want to do, you can see. If you you can define explicitly also, but what happens in your Azure, right, we are giving your Azure runtime environment, so it will internally calculate a value for these things, and it will try to match up with the uh, most closest thing which you define here. Not necessarily every time you define the number of maximum concurrent sessions you want, that may not be the maximum, because we are not using the optimal configuration, right? We're just going with the bare basic things.
Shweta, I
So
have a question here. You
hmm,
said recursively is more like if you want it to be on daily basis, for example,
no,
right?
no, 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 no. See, process all files in the input folder and its subfolder recursively. You're getting it? If I have 10 files over here, if I have one more folder which have another 10 files, and I want all the files to be copied,
Okay.
then, but in that case, you have to have all the files in a CSV format or the format you define. So you
Okay.
need
So
not
it's
create separate copy data if you have separate files.
got it. Okay. And then they need to be in the same format though.
Yeah, you, because I'll show you next when I do. Since I've not given a binary over here, I'll get something like this. What kind? So first it will try to detect the format on its own. So it has detected the format, that it is a text format. It's a comma separated. This is the row limited. Whether you want the first row is as a header, that also it has done it on its own. I have not checked anything. Okay. The escape character it has found. The code character it has found. The encoding. See, so all these kind of encoding is done. So remember, when you are getting an on-premises file, sometimes this encoding plays a very important role, because there may be some characters which may be supported only in some encoding. Okay, so it will take the default. There is no compression. Now let me open the file and show it to you all how it looks. So let me go over here, and this is your sales record. Okay, so here it is showing this way, but so basically it is a comma separated one. Then you have your region, country. This is the first line is again your header. Okay, so all these things it has actually detected on its own. I need not define anything. Suppose you want to define, so you have all these formats in which data can be read: text, Avro, JSON, ORC, and Parquet format. So yesterday someone was asking me, right, whether this file is readable or not, that different files. So all these different kinds of files are readable over here. So Excel is a comma separated text file. So that is how it has taken as a text file. Now your delimiters can also be changed, whether you so colon, semicolon, pipe, tab, and also you have a no delimiter also. And okay, so initially, see, I'll just say you, this was not the start of the heading. Okay, so this is basically your x/x001, which you will get, mostly we get it in files which we create in ab initio or in Unix. So here it came, or else if you want, there is a no delimiter. So even that came up now. Okay, so these features were not there initially, like just 3-4 months back also, it was not there. Can you see now, since I have changed the format here saying there is no delimiter, do you see how the data is read? Everything is read as a single record. You can see here. So again, if I suppose I have put a semicolon, all right. So since we know that there is no semicolon, see how it will be. So again, it is just putting everything as a single record because you have a row delimiter over here. So just remember, if your format is correct, the definition is correct, you should be able to see your data. Okay, for and if you click this edit option, you can actually give your own column delimiter. All right, similarly we have your row delimiter as well. Now suppose you want to skip a line, first 10 lines, you don't want to read it for some reason, or say first line is a header, you don't want, you can just define it over here. Or if I uncheck this, then you will see what will happen is, so you see every time I'm changing it, the things are changing. So the first record is actually showing as region, country, item number, and what it did automatically, it just renamed your column names as property 0, 1, 2. So if you do not have a header, then automatically it will take it as property 0, 1, 2. It will define these names. All right. Similarly, these are the advanced options where you provide escape character, code character, and all these. So by default, it has come. So if I do next, so you see this got created. Azure Data Storage got created. All right. So now we came to destination. If you see here, the destination has come into picture. So do I want to create it here itself? No. What I want is I want to load it into a SQL Cosmos DB, which will be created, which I'll create now. Again, I deleted everything yesterday. So we'll just go over here, Azure Cosmos DB. We'll do an add. We'll select the same resource. Account name will just give us Cosmos DB training. All right. So here I'm selecting it as core SQL. You have all these other options. Okay, I'm not putting it as an Apache Spark. I'm not enabling the geo redundancy or the multi writes. And let me put this to your Asia. Is it available? Yeah, East Asia. Okay. Next is networking. I'm putting it as all network tags, and we will create it. So my Cosmos DB is created. Okay, I want to say one more thing is, your features keep getting updated in your different in all the resources. Okay, they are keep on adding new features, and since it is a GUI, things may look little change. So currently I'm actually working on Databricks and your Power BI. So the things I worked on this about 6 months back. So you can see how much of a change has happened in these 6 months. And what they do is, whenever they put a preview feature or they add a new feature, right, they always make it backward compatible. So if we have created something, 6 months back and they have changed some things. So with an update you might encounter that some new features have been added. Okay, so as I was saying, in the data lake storage, the delimiter, that particular delimiter was not there 6 months back, but now I can see that that particular delimiter is there. So these kind of changes might keep on happening. They may keep on adding, or whenever some preview is there, they may keep on adding or removing features. All right, so I've created the Cosmos DB. I have created container and item in that. I have container a new container, and then I have created the item in this. So if I go here, I can see the subscription. This will load the DB name. This will load the database name. Suppose you want to enter manually. You want to suppose someone else has created a Cosmos DB. You want to connect to that. So what you do is, there is something called Cosmos DB account URI. So if you go over here in your Cosmos DB overview, you see this, right, URL. You just go here, copy this, and if you paste it over here, okay, next we want to create it through your Cosmos DB access keys. So where do we find these access keys? You see here keys. You can copy any of the keys, the primary or the secondary key. So you just
Is it
copy.
like a service account, Shweta? Like normally in RDBMS, we'll have a, say we are deploying it to production or something, we'll have a service account instead of an individual user using. Is it something like that?
You can configure that, but this is not that. Okay, so here what happens is, I have to actually share the primary key with you, and in case I change the key or I rotate the key, which is a good performance, which is considered as a good activity, because you should, from security standpoint, I have to again explicitly share this key with you. All right, so this is one way of doing it. And the thing which you said is a service principle, right? So you see something here called Azure Key Vault, right? So there is a feature, and I give the database name over here. Just a second. So I have created training as the database. All right. So there is something called as Azure Key Vault. Okay, so if you search here, there is Key Vault services that are provided. What you can do here is, you can actually go and create a username and a password, how you said, right? So there we basically, those are called as secrets. So you can create a secret, you can give a value, and that will be constant. And then you can actually always connect it to that. So that is the best way to connect, because here your security is of the highest standard. So when you productionize any kind of job, right, you need to go via these things. You cannot just define how I gave the URL here, or directly it is picking up from the subscription level, right? Things are hard coded. We should not do it this way. You actually go enter manually and you create a key vault. Even if you see the connection string, I can put it in a key vault. So when we have a session on the Azure, this itself is a session on its own. So when we have that session, I can show you how we create a key vault and how we create different kinds of secrets, or if there is a certificate in picture, we can upload it. So this is something like how you said, right? There will be a it's not like a user ID or a password which you have to define, but it will be an automatic setup will be done. So whenever you go, it will connect to the key vault, and from there it will retrieve the information.
Okay.
So I do a test connection over here, and I go ahead and I create it. So when I do a next, now my destination is, this is my source. All right, I can just skip mapping for all tables. Okay, or else if I do this, what happens here is, the preview feature goes off. All right, so if I go and do next, let me skip it for the very first time. So the behavior is insert. There are two kinds of behavior here, insert and upsert. There is no update. All right, and all these things we can define: the timeout size, the batch size, the concurrent size. But for now, just just we will consider the default ones. We're not defining any such thing now. So if you want, you can have a fault tolerance like abort activity on first these are the options where you can do whether you can skip the rows which are not compatible, and or you can skip and log. If you give this, you have to further give where it will do it. Okay, so then you have to create a storage account, and in that storage account you have to give this these details. If you want to do a staging, say you want to load it into a staging table and you want to do it, then you have these options. Okay, now here you see, right, you are enabling compression or something. You can enable compression also. Data integration unit, you will be charged number of DUIs into copy duration into 0.25 DUI per hour. All right, this is how you are charged in your data factory. So for now, I've kept it as auto. I can actually go ahead and decide it. But then remember, since you are doing it in Azure integration runtime, even if you give some number, it will calculate on its own the most effective integration unit, and it will assign that. It will try to keep it as close to the number you have defined. Okay, I'll just remove the staging. So you see here, your task name is copy data, your source is data lake, your dataset name is this, all the details are here, your destination is this, and these are the timeout sessions. So what is happening is it is deploying, and now it created a dataset, it created the pipeline, it is running the pipeline. So if we go to your monitor, it will actually show you how the data is running. So you see this is succeeded. If I click over here, the data read is 1245 KB, data written is 49 KB. It has written 100, read 100 rows. Basically, this is your log. It has read and written both 100 rows. Okay, the number of peak connections that was set up is 1, and here it was 4. Throughput is this much. You have all the log details. So here it has used 1 parallel copy and it has used 4 DIUs. All right. So now let's go to our Cosmos DB and let me do a refresh over here. So what do we see? Here what are you seeing? Here you just see two things, right? Your key value pairs. Okay. And here what do you see? You see the data. This is one record which I have selected. This is the second. In this way there are 100 records. So you have actually taken a structured data, and just with the copy data activity, you have actually transformed into a NoSQL database. Okay, now let me show you some more interesting things. What all got created when we created this copy data? Okay, we just created it from the front end. Let me refresh this. One pipeline is created, all right, which has an activity called copy data. Okay, now when I click here, you see the parameters of your uh, pipeline. Okay, so we can generate parameters here, we can use variables here. All right, I'll show you when we have some more other requirements where we can use parameters. I'll show it to you. When we go in ahead and click a copy data activity, all that we defined in the source, right, everything we can redefine it over here. Sync mapping, if we want to do a mapping. Okay, if I do this, okay, I can add a dynamic content also. So all this I will show you where the things are relevant. Let me get those use cases and I'll do it for you. So here you see, right, all the things which we defined there, we can redefine it here. Okay, and then two data sets are created. One is your source data set, one is your target data set. If you go and click this, if you go and check the connection, you saw the link service which we created here, right? So that is shown over here. The file path is shown over here. Okay, if you go over here and if you do a preview data, you can actually see the data. Okay. These things are there, whatever we define while defining the data set. You see over here, right? You can do it. So remember, if you want to change a data set also, just go here, you can edit it. In your destination data set, you will see these details, the collection here. Now, since there is data in this, I can do a preview data and I can see the complete data here. You can see it, right? The schema details. Let me do an import schema. So what it will do now, since there is data, see, it has imported and everything it is considering it as a string. You see it by default, it has kept, it has understood that it is a region, country and all. So we haven't created any data flows. If you go here, you will see the connections which I have set up. Let me delete this as I don't need it right now. So we have two connections, Azure Data Lake Storage and Cosmos DB. Everything is editable. You can enter it to a new subscription, but your name cannot be changed. Okay. Triggers we have not created, since it is a one time. You remember we initially, while creating the copy activity, we kept as one time. Suppose we want to add a trigger to a activity. I'll show it to you when we have a little longer. We just create 2-3 activities and create a pipeline. Next, it provides us with monitor. I showed you, right? It showed the pipeline name, when it started, for how long it ran, whether it was triggered by a trigger or it was manually triggered, the status. If it fails, you will get logs, a small note kind of thing where your defect will be shown, the reason of why it has failed, and it will be mostly in Java code. There won't be a direct English thing that okay, this has happened. So you need to debug in that way. You have to search the code. So this is the rerun option. If I want to rerun the pipeline, all right. If I go ahead and click here, if there are, so now I just have one activity, right? If there are multiple activities, okay, I can select an activity, rerun from that particular activity, it will come. Suppose there are multiple activities I have done, then I'll get this option of rerun from failed activities. So what will happen is a new run will start and it will trigger it. So you can also monitor your trigger runs if there is anything. Here you see, right, there is one integration runtime. If I want to create a self-hosted one, I can create here. If I want to, the Azure one is here, and if I want, when I have to move an SSIS package, I have to create a separate runtime with that.
So Shweta, this pipeline will be automated, right? Like we don't have to run it manually.
If you want to do that, suppose how, so in that case you have to create a trigger. All right, I can create one trigger and I can associate that trigger to that. I need to
Okay,
go
so do
over
we have
here,
to schedule
here.
it?
Yeah, either
Yeah.
you can do it in the beginning there was two options, right? So single time run
Okay.
or scheduled. There you can schedule
Okay.
it. Now
So what
scheduling
what
also,
we?
you have two options. Okay,
Hmm.
let me show you. When you create a trigger, you have these three options: schedule, normal schedule, occurs every 1 minute, everything. Tumbling window is something, there's a reoccurrence. All right, it will run these many times. So here you have delay. It gives you all these kind of options. Apart from that, there is one thing called as event. What happens is, so suppose you want to trigger it whenever the blob comes. You just have to create an event. So you go ahead and select here. Suppose I'm just selecting this. I'll give the container name. So the blob path, it will ask what event you want. Whether whenever the blob is created, it will automatically trigger, it will load it. Whenever the blob is deleted, suppose there is some other activity, you can do it. So there are three kinds of schedule which you have to do. So you create a trigger and then you add this trigger to that particular copy data activity. You see here there is an option of add trigger, right? You do a trigger
Right.
now. Okay, one more thing. If you create a
That
copy
is
data,
manually, right?
yes. If
Okay.
I go and do a new edit over here, I can add the trigger. So for that, first I have to go there and create a trigger, or from here I can create a new trigger and I can add it. Okay,
Okay, and
so
here we can schedule it. Yeah.
yeah, you can schedule it. And the thing is, one more thing is, once you create a copy data, there is no button of play. If you put the debug, it will run in a debug mode. If you actually want to run, go to add trigger and press the trigger now. So we have successfully completed your copy data activity today.
One more
Yeah,
question.
yeah,
In this whole process in Data Factory, you have moved the data from ADL version Gen 2 to Cosmos DB, right?
right. And remember, the
So
data was a structured data. ADLS2 supports everything. So it's not necessary that only non-structured will come. It has changed from a structured data and we have loaded into a NoSQL DB. And
okay, so from ADL already make it in a structure format. Okay, then we have copied it to Cosmos DB. But
Hmm.
in case of blob,
Hmm.
it might not convert into a structure because blob
It
contain
will.
unstructured data also, right?
See, the conversion has not happened at your ADLS level. It has happened when we have run the copy data activity. It has internally happened. There is a huge set of code which
Okay,
runs at the backend. Okay,
so this is
it's
not
not,
visible to us.
no, it's not visible to us.
So we can
See,
only see that the data movement, right? From
correct.
source to target.
Now, yeah. So here you cannot see that. But when you do the things in Databricks, you can configure those things because you are the one who's
Okay.
writing each and every line. So you understand the difference now? Because there you are actually
Oh,
writing notebooks, you're actually writing the code.
sure, sure. So you mean to say that even if we copy from blob to DB, Cosmos DB, the data will be in a structure format, right?
It was structured. Cosmos DB, you are, see, you have kept the SQL API, so it will show you in this JSON format. All right. And it is storing in that key value format as you saw.
No, but
Here.
data in blob, suppose data in blob is in unstructured format,
Huh?
then my question is
Then
from
also it will work.
unstructured,
Then also it will
it
work.
internally. You mean to say
Yes.
internally it will
Yeah.
convert into a structure.
Yes. When we run this
So this
code, right? When
edit,
we run,
okay.
when we did this copy data activity, right? You see there is
Mm-hmm.
something here. Uh, when I click over here, so what has happened? This is in East Asia, this is in East Asia. This arrow mark you are seeing, right? So here it will convert and it will run. They have built and given it to you. What code is there inside and how it is configured, we cannot do that configuration. The
So
configurations which we can do are only these things.
so what kind of transformation is done and also if it
If
is
you
not
want to
visible
create
then
transformation, see, in the beginning only I told you this is basically if you just want to shift data with very limited transformations, you can do a
okay.
mapping column. Mapping can be allowed. If you want to go and do a transformation, you have to create a data flow. All right, so let me create a new data flow. You can add a source. For this you have to just, I'll show you what all options are present. So here you have join, conditional split, exist, union, lookup. All right. So you can do join. You can, conditional split is something your existing data set you can split in two based on a condition. So it acts as a filter where you can create two separate data sets on that. And then you can, what else you can do, a derived column is something based on a certain condition you can derive a new column. Suppose you want an aggregate, you can do that. You want to
So this can be
simply,
done on the pipeline too, right, Shweta?
okay, we create a data flow here. You go to the pipeline. All right, you create a data flow. Activity will come and you can run that activity over here. You're getting it? So this data flow will do something.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Suppose it is taking two sources, joining and filtering some records and writing in a destination, which is again a blob storage, is a file. Okay. So what I'm doing is I'm copying a file into Cosmos DB and I'm putting a source and I'm doing some transformation and doing it. So here I basically will call a data flow, which internally will call that entire activity. And this actually, when we create a data flow, basically it will spin up a cluster. So you see script allow drift true, validation schema. So this kind of code is written, okay, and this in the background will run on a Scala code. But we need not configure it. They allow us certain things to do in the front, and we can do it. So data flow itself is an extensive topic. I'll search for a use case and I can show it to you. But this will be used for your detailed transformations.
So do you mean that Databricks will do more transformation or like it is more visible to the user in case of transformation as compared
See,
to
it
data
is
flow?
not about more visible to user. Okay, see, suppose you just want to copy your data, your entire requirement. Then there are two things. Okay, your business has to approve which one they will go with. Sometimes they choose Databricks over Data Factory. Sometimes they choose Data Factory over Databricks. Now, suppose you just have a copy activity, and you don't need. Then why do you need to exceptionally go and create clusters? You have to define those things. You have to write a code. Just come over here, define the source and target, and you can go ahead and do it. And someone was asking me about How do we connect it to on premises, right? So here there is something called as self-hosted. See, perform data flows, data mode this to external compute. This means you can actually set this up on your system. You get the self-hosted. Okay, so this, but what happens is most of the industries or the companies, they will not allow you to set up a direct connection this way because this is risky. Okay, so either you can go it in this way, or there are other ways to get the connection set up. So this is how you connect to on-prem. There are other ways, like as I was saying, file share. One option you will see in the storage account called file share. Say storage explorer, you have a file share, right? So in here it is not showing. I can go ahead and create a file share. See, it clearly mentions, sorry, it clearly mentions serverless SMB file share. So if your organization supports SMB, which is which is that server message protocol, block protocol 3.0 or above, you can just create this file share. It will do a mounting on your on premises, and any file there will automatically come over here. In since this is an ADLS2, it will come in your storage account as a file share. You can also define a table, and queues are there for reading your message queues. So then we have an utility called Easy Copy also. So if you install Easy Copy, it's a file of a USCP type where you can just copy the file from your on-prem to your.
Shweta, how many ways, for suppose I have scheduled a few pipelines on my, I mean jobs,
Mhm.
where the failure occurs in the logs, what are the, how many are ways to check the logs in Data Factory?
So you have your monitor over here, right? You
Okay.
can see all the details here. Since I've run one pipeline, it will show here. I can select the hour, the days. It's just for last 24 hours, latest run, whether I want to include reruns or what I want to do. So you have a dashboard over here. So it will show you how many pipelines are run, how many activities are done, whether there is a trigger or not. And then there is something called alert and matrices. Okay, you can add an alert rule. So suppose you want to put it, this is your severity. You want to the criteria when any activity is cancelled or when any activity is failed. Okay, so this
Okay.
way you can actually put your alerts also. And
So we
what
can
kind of
define
reward?
alerts here if any failures happen.
Yeah,
For
you
suppose
can.
one of job has failed, so
Mm,
immediately I need to get trigger the email. So
correct. So here you have to define it. You see, configure email, push voice notification, add configuration. You create an action group,
okay,
create one, add notification. If you go, what kind you want, whether you want it as an email, you want it as an SMS, you want an Azure push up notification, you want the voice call, the type you want, you can add it. You have to pay also, okay, for all the things you do.
okay.
And
So
Shweta, I
directly
had
we
a
can put directly to our email box, right?
Yeah. So
That
I'll take the last question. After that, we'll please go for the session today because I need you all to understand that also. Yes,
fine.
I think Roja was asking, or
so Shweta, that integration runtime was there, right?
right,
You had
right.
an so did we create it manually?
No, we
How
did
was
not
it?
create. By default, your auto resolve integration runtime, that is your Azure runtime, will be created. So
Okay.
I'll show you something. Suppose we want to create a new cancel connection. All right. We create a new link service. Say I'm creating to a blob storage, continue. So by default, this will be selected.
Okay.
And when we do a create, it will get created.
Okay, what is the best, like, is it good to use auto resolve
Yeah,
integration
yeah.
runtime or is it good to use our own or create an own?
See, when you create an own, every time whenever you create something on your own, right, you become completely responsible for that. So you have to actually set up each and everything. Here we didn't do any setup, right? By default, it
Yeah.
came, it took four, it did everything. And it did the best it should be doing for that amount of data. Okay, because suppose you have small data and you're using very good configuration, you will unnecessarily pay more, right? So it's okay to use with Azure runtime,
Okay. And
right?
then it says running, so it will be, they'll manage it, right? I mean, Microsoft would manage it, whether it is running So is there a case where it will be down or something, the integration runtime? No.
99% of times it won't be. If it is there, it is their responsibility to fix it.
Okay.
Shweta,
So when you
one
do,
question, one last
yeah,
question. As we did activities here like ADF, data lake, and different accounts. So
mm,
how do we, once we have completed our activity, like once we complete our examples,
mm.
now I need to delete all these activities like resources, groups, accounts. So how do we do in one go?
You want to delete everything?
Yeah, exactly. Just
Just go
before
to
log
the
off
resource
something.
group. Yeah, you just go to your particular resource group. All right.
Okay.
Since this is the reason why we created everything in one resource group. Select everything, delete, delete. Once everything is
Okay.
deleted, you can delete the resource group. Or else you can directly go and delete the resource group. Automatically everything should get deleted until there is some other dependency.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank
you
you.
if you saw I did a publish all, right? So this means all my changes are saved. Okay, so if suppose I have
Okay.
not deleted it and I want to come, so now if I do any more changes, suppose I'm doing any more changes, if I want to revert it, it will go to that particular state. So I hope you got an idea of data factory, but this is just a very small functionality which we can do here. There are many more things which we can do.
So when we
It's
say
like
publish, where did we publish it? Like
it just
exactly
saved
where?
internally. It's saved internally. See, it will have its own internal repository also, right? Like not the
Okay.
GitHub. GitHub is
Okay,
something
not
like
GitHub.
not GitHub, or we have not set it up right now, the repository. So it is saving the code for you internally.
Okay, so we would, it's more like only the reason is if I want to go back, so say I have to go to the first version. So now I
No,
cannot do that.
no, you cannot do that. For that, you need to maintain a version, detailed version kind of thing, and then you can do it. I have not set up the code repository right now, right?
Okay.
Is there any limitation for the data factory in this?
Limitation in what way?
I mean, there is some restrictions we cannot be allowed beyond this, something like that.
No, like suppose see, your copy data has a restriction like you cannot do very like only unlimited mapping is allowed to you to do for you to do. Okay, very simple mapping. You can map different kind of data. This thing. Even initially they did not even provide data formatting. So what we were facing a problem is like our data was in slash. Data was separated by slash, but we had to load it in a format with hyphen, and for that we could not do it in copy data, even that it was not supporting, but I heard that recently they have updated that. So these kind of things, even though it is not there, they have provided you with data flow, so you can do it over there. Now there are things like Azure functions, so it's a very powerful tool. You can write functions to do a lot of things in, and it itself is a like it's a huge course. You have data bricks functions here, so data analytics. So if you create you have a cluster created, data lake cluster created, you can use usql to do it. Now there are general functions also like lookup, stored procedure. If you want to run, if you want to do a web application, like you want to connect to a web, you can do that. And then this iteration things are there, they are very helpful. Suppose in the pipeline itself I want to set a condition like for each, I want to read a file, and based on that file I want to do some runs, I can put for each, if, switch, until, all these conditions are there. And then again I can directly run my machine learning pipelines or executions I can do here.
Okay. Finally, the data factory will be used for categorize the data, load from one place to another place. That's the
Yes.
only thing for data factory.
See, it's not only to load from one place to another thing. Using all these things, you can, yeah, that is the end-to-end source.
Yeah.
But using all these things, you can do a very large number of transformation. Okay.
Yeah,
See, you
large
can,
number of categories. I
yeah,
mean, as per requirement, we can categorize. But
yes.
ultimate thing is data factory used for the load the data ETL something. The only the purpose ETL. I mean,
See,
something.
you get the data, okay, in any format, all format, you do transform. So you see here what I have done. No, I've actually done a copy data over here. Okay. If I create a data flow, I want to join something. All right. I can do a copy data of a structured data into the Cosmos DB. Again, I can get from no structured data and I can load it in Cosmos DB, the same database. So yeah, finally there will be a database or any place where you load it, and from there the reporting or for your analysis purpose or for developing machine learning code, you can get the data from there.
Yeah, thank you.
And one second, there'll be a place where you can. Okay, so there is something like Azure Cloud Shell where we have Bash and PowerShell. Just since it just came up, I'm telling you. So all this, whatever we did to GUI, right? You have commands to run it in Bash and PowerShell also. But usually we do it through GUI. That is much simpler. But suppose you want to do something in a loop, right? You can just put a command and do it. I was just showing you. Okay, let me go to the data factory. Yeah, you can see the release notes, right? So you see, like on Jan 27th, there is one release note they have done, 24th something else, 10th something else. So this way they keep on adding things. Evaluate data flow expression inline with strings in ADF. So now it allows you to interpret expression inline strings easily. And so these were some things which were not there initially. So every now and then they'll keep adding features. So maybe you're working today, after 6 months, you may see some new features also if you are not constantly working on the same thing. Okay, now we'll move on to the theoretical parts, please. I've not. Okay, so I think all of you got a very good idea of what data lake is. Okay, so these things we have to understand with respect to your data lake, your data storage. We have to go through all these features. Let's start one by one. Data ingestion, as I told, it supports structured, semi-structured, unstructured. So you have to understand something. If suppose a ETL tool is there, say ab initio is there, okay, and I want to read a file which is a file which is in CSV and a file which is in JSON, I cannot put a join directly like that. I have to at least bring them both in a way where I can read it, and they have to have a common format, and then I can do the proceedings. But here that is not required. See, the things which I am showing you is a very basic things, and mostly we are, as of now, people are doing this because most of the industries are just moving. But there are a lot more things which you can do in this. Multiple ingestions like batch, real time, and one time load is supported. So I showed you we can even get a real time data. Many types of data sources, databases like database, web services, emails, IoT, and FTP. From all these things we can get data. So directly the data will come and go to your ADLS too. So how it is stored? Firstly, data storage is scalable. You can always go and increase the size of your storage account. Okay. So there is no limit here. Like see, when I uploaded the blob over here, right, you will see a size here. There is no limit. There's nowhere mentioned that this size is less or this size is more, right? So I can just go ahead and keep on adding even a huge file also I can add. Maybe it will take some time for uploading or something, but even huge files we can do it. There is no limit to that. Okay, so and it supports various data formats as I showed you. Now just now we put CSV. It supports JSON, Parquet, SQL, all these things it supports. All right. So the next is your data governance. So we data governance is a process of managing your availability, usability, security, and integrity of data used in an organization. See, for your at your storage account level, okay, we have you can set up a lot of things. You see over here there is something called firewall and virtual networks. Currently, I've kept to all networks. I can very well go and to a selected network, create a virtual network, define subnet inside this. So I can put a lot of details. I can even create a private endpoint here. When I go to advanced security, okay, it's taking some time to load because here I need to sign into something. So Azure will provide me with additional features. Okay, and see, some I showed you the key vault, right? When we use those kind of services, like if we create a key vault connection, so nothing is actually getting displayed in your data factory or in your storage account, right? The connections are completely hidden. So even at that level, we can do it. All right. So here is the encryption thing. It'll come. I'll show it to you. All right. Now security. Security is implemented in every layer of data lake. It starts with storage, unearthing, and consumption. The basic need is to stop access for unauthorized users. It supports different tools to access, easier to navigate your GUI and dashboard. Authentication accounting, authorization, and data protection are some important features of data lake security. So I showed you at the storage level how these things are done, right? So if you go here again, these access keys come into picture. So if any of you want to access my storage account, I need to share all this. And then apart from this, again I have this access control also. I can again access, give you roles, different kind of roles for this particular storage account. So if I want, I can completely restrict a user any ping from a particular location. Say the storage account is in India, I don't want anyone from other than India to access it. I can even control at that level. All right. Okay, now next is your data quality. Data quality is essential component of data lake architecture. Data is used to extract business value. Extracting insights from poor quality data will lead to poor quality insights. So the quality of data, the way the data is maintained, is also kept it in a it is maintained in a in a proper way. It's not like we just if a data is used, suddenly it is getting we are shifting it to archival or certain things. No, it is maintained in a proper way. So this is the data quality. Next is the data discovery. It is the another important stage before you can begin preparing data or analysis. In this stage, tagging technique is used to express data understanding by organizing and interpreting the data ingested in the data lake. See, tags are very, very important when you want to segregate the data. So if we are getting files from, say, for department, now if we can, everything is department, but through tags we can differentiate them, and while retrieving the data or getting it, it is much better. Next is the auditing. So data comes from various sources, various departments, various assets classifications, and just because of these variations, some data requires special security requirements and handling. Certain data in data lake need tracking of change that it undergoes, as well as who accesses for various legal and contractual aspects. So as I showed you over here, right, you have all these different ways. So when you go to the advanced security, right, it is taking some time to load. You can have even advanced methods of securing the data. You need to sign in for that, and with this subscription you need to pay some extra amount. And even with pay as you go, I think it is not it won't be activated directly. Data lineage. Data lineage deals with the data origins. What happens to it when and where it is moved over time. It simplifies tracing error back to its source in a data analytical process, and its journey from origin to destination is visualized through appropriate tool, like you saw in the data factory. So in the pipelines, you can see from where the data is going. And again, internally, if you go further in the logs, it will show from what data type to what data type it has been moved. Data exploration. So it helps in data analysis. It helps to identify right data sets before starting data exploration. I hope you guys are clear with the Azure Data Lake storage.